in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes. Okay. All right, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Buenas noches, tenemos interpretación al español. Si alguien gusta escuchar la presentación en español, tenemos audífonos. Good evening. In order to provide language access, we have Spanish interpretation available. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, headsets for the hearing impaired are available. Please indicate if you should need a headset. I will now make an announcement from closed session. The board voted unanimously in closed session to approve Bethany Bodenhammer as interim dean of students, dean of student engagement at Dos Pueblos High. The vote was 5-0. Motion made by Dr. Reed, second by Ms. Ford. Thank you. That concludes closed session report. So, Mr. Superintendent.
Good evening, all. You guys look very festive. I see a fair amount of red out there, so happy holidays. This is the last school board meeting of 2019. It's the last month of a decade. And when we all come back together, we're going to be in the year 2020. That has a nice sound to it. So again, welcome to all of you. I know many of you are here to offer public comment. We welcome that. And now I will turn it back to the board president for board comments.
Okay. Board members, do we have any comments? Ms. Ford?
Just that it was great to see everyone, all the leaders and a lot of community movers and shakers at the State of Our Schools meeting, which was, I think, on the 15th, 14th, 15th?
A month ago.
Yeah, but we haven't had a board meeting since.
Oh, that's true.
So just wanted to call it out. And then also I accepted a lovely invitation from Washington to tour the school with the school site council and key members of the parent community. And it was a terrific morning.
Board members? Ms. Munoz? Okay, y'all figured out now?
Come on.
All right, Dr. Reed.
Alrighty now. So I had the opportunity to meet with Kelly Choi, who is the director of the Academy of Success. And she is also involved, it's part of the community of schools. And I just wanted to say how impressed I was with the program. I'd heard a lot about it and had been involved and heard the association also with the PEAK program. But to have the opportunity to really go in and talk to the students who are impacted by the work that Kelly is doing and the teachers are doing within that program. And I had the opportunity to speak to a number of students who spoke about how they felt incredibly empowered because they were in charge of their education. And they felt that they were making a difference in their own lives, that they felt that they were getting the support they needed, the one-on-one support, but the guidance, but they felt that they were taking it on themselves. And it was one of those moments when you walk in and you go, this is what it's about, where you get those little chills and you go, this is what it's about. And so I just wanted to really make a note that of the work Community of Schools is doing, that Kelly is doing, that the teachers are doing, but also that the students are doing, that they are really digging down and really moving forward with their lives and taking on new challenges because they see the reason to do it. And they see themselves as there's future for them. And I was talking to students that said, I know I want to be a teacher. Well, I already have an idea. I want to be I want to work in a hair salon. And then she actually changed. She goes, I want to work in a hair salon. Well, actually, I want to own the salon. Well, I think I'm going to buy a series of stores. And so anyway, it was great. It was just seeing the impact of this program, and I just thought it was really important to acknowledge that. So I also just wanted to acknowledge our cabinet and our administration and our teachers at this moment before the new year, to just say how much I appreciate the work of our cabinet and of our administration and of our educators. I mean, this is, we are so lucky, and I just want to feel appreciative of the work that we have and the teachers that we have in this school. And it's all because of our students. It's why you're here, it's why we're here. It's just so exciting, and I appreciate it, and I just want to make that known and thank everyone. So, thanks.
Ms. Munoz? Okay.
Hello. Yes, just in part, just looking back, and it's been a year that Kate and I have been here on the board, that we were sworn in, and just, such an opportunity, so valuable to be able to meet everyone and know of everyone's efforts, the teachers, the staff, and the parents, the students, and their participation in the school district. And I also wanted to share, I see Maria Larios Horton there, and the parents that are here, the multilingual pathway meeting that I attended on November 18th, where we're getting close to the culmination of presenting, the multilingual pathways and developing that. And I'm very much looking forward to our last meeting that we're going to have on January 13th, 2020. And that process is very exciting. I know many of you here participate in that. And just, in terms of the holidays and the youth and the families in our community, people young and old, I was in the State Street Christmas Parade a couple of weeks ago, and just seeing the children and why we do this, and a reminder of the community that we have. And then this last weekend, I was at the Goleta Old Town Parade that I watched, and just the joy, just coming together, all the community service organizations that we're really blessed to have here in Santa Barbara and Goleta that serve our families of all ages.
I'll just give a quick thanks to our teachers and staff who are here. We're thankful of you as you have time for the holidays. I hope you get some rest and time for reflection and time for families. It's a good time for that. Thank you.
And I'm just going to say ditto and do this, in terms of supporting of that. So I'll have comments later on in the meeting. Okay, so next we'll move to our public comments.
Great. We just have a few tonight. President Sims Moten, I will call to the podium, please. Joel Block, followed by Moni DeWitt, followed by Alex Mosberger. So I think you know the situation. We got 3 minutes, and I'll give you a friendly 30-second warning.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Joel Block, and I'm a proud and active member of the Santa Barbara Teachers Association. I'm currently in my 38th year as an educator, and I am very happy with the progress and changes we have made in our school district. My son is a graduate of the program, and he is currently a successful attorney in the state of Washington and very involved in education and politics, and he makes us all very proud. I have participated in implicit bias training, and I support its continuation in our district 100%. At no time during that training was I ever made to feel that as a white male, I was the cause of society's racial problems. My experience of the underpinnings of that workshop is that as human beings, we all have hidden biases, and that by becoming aware of them, we can control them in our interactions with other people. The descriptions of the training that you have heard from those who wish the district cease the training is not accurate. We have often heard about white privilege, and those who suggest that it does not affect our society are being disingenuous at best. I grew up in a middle-class family in a mostly non-white neighborhood and school. In fact, when I was in 8th grade, I was in a group in my hometown that was part of mandatory busing to integrate the white schools. As such, I'm very aware of minority issues as it relates to white privilege. You've heard from those who oppose board policy and claim to support teachers. They do not support me, and they do not speak for me. I ask that the board not be swayed by those giving inaccurate information who wish to end the district's relationship with just communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Moni DeWitt.
I'm just going to want to remind us to be respectful in the same thing in terms of that. So that
Hi there, board, and I hope you all have a very happy holiday. I am really grateful for the opportunity to have an open dialogue with you, especially about the needs of our Latinx in deep poverty here in the community, as well as the dyslexics. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because of equity. So what happens to someone who can't read, and I am dyslexic, my son is dyslexic, is they will need intensive intervention. And if they aren't given intensive intervention, and by intensive, ideally, it's one-on-one, and then they fall behind. And as we've seen by our scores, which is not the fault of the staff, with class sizes this big, my son had to go to private school. We left the district under duress. You know, we happily got into debt, and we went to a place where class sizes are smaller. So those are a factor too. But back to what the pilot program doesn't cut it. We have 3,000 dyslexics. The kids in deep poverty, they don't even get to go to science camp. So the inequity that I'm talking about is how we spend our funding. Because I remember, Mr. Matsuoka, you mentioned at your breakfast talk that it's about funding. But we get funding, we get LCAP money, and we get 50% more for those high-risk schools. You know about those, Laura, the same food bank crew. The sad thing is we don't spend that 50% on the kids at high risk. And our district has been flagged for that. So in the new year, I want us to have a growth mindset. I want this to be something we look at a new leader with the courage and the experience who has dealt with this conundrum. Because without literacy, you know what the choices are for kids who don't have the wealth or their parents can't go into debt? The choices are no four-year college because you don't get the A through Gs. You don't know how to read by the third grade, it's the school to prison pipeline. I can tell you, I'm a photographer. I've gotten to know all of the current people at Los Prietos, all those boys, and several of them had trouble with reading and were like heavy artists, but they did fall in with the wrong crowd. You know, so this is a big thing, and I just want to say, I think when we focus on the money and we have equity issues like trips to Washington, D.C., trips to Kathmandu, Timbuktu, but these kids can't even go to science camp. So our leadership needs to lead by not going to Timbuktu, Washington, wherever. You guys have had your trips. I want these guys to get their trip this year, for starters.
Thank you. So next, help me with your last name, Alex Moosberger?
yes,
Did I say that right?
yes.
You can correct me. Okay.
Thank you all for your time. Last week, Greta Thunberg lamented the fact that the only thing that gets attention is saying things like the world is on fire, when what we really need to be talking about is the science of climate change and what we can do about it. That is why I came here on October 8th and told you that I had been working on a project for a year and a half to create a new high school credential program in environment and sustainability. I got an email from the assistant superintendent that very night saying that the superintendent wanted to meet with me and teachers to discuss it. I was thrilled. But soon after that meeting, he announced his pending retirement, and I haven't had any more contact from him or Assistant Sean Carey or anyone representing this board since. So I am back. I'm going to try again. My name is Alex Moosberger. I have attended San Marcos High School for 3 years, and I have worked hard to be the best student I can be. I have earned straight A's in the most challenging courses the school offers. I have a 4.75 GPA. I am an AP Scholar with distinction and a National Merit Commended Scholar. In October, I asked you for 8 minutes of your time to describe the program I have worked on for over a year, the grants I identified to fund it, and I told you that this was important because this program is necessary in order to fulfill the mission statement on the wall, in order to prepare us for the future yet to be created. We do not know what this future holds, but we know it will be defined by climate change, and the students in this district have no requirement and no formal incentive to understand climate change science, its economics, its politics, or its role in culture. Students at my school do not have to read even one book on the environment. We literally have to elect to get any education on the most important issue of our time. I know that you have other issues to deal with. I have had 3 different principals in my 3 years here, in addition to multiple shooting threats and multiple lockdowns. But those things shouldn't mean we put the education vital to understanding our future on hold. The world is on fire, and adults in power do need to act, and you need to do it urgently. In October of last year, the IPCC announced that we have only 12 years left to get a handle on climate change. That was 1 year after I lost a friend, Jack, in the Montecito debris flow. 1 year after the Thomas Fire was the worst in California history. 3 months after the Mendocino Fire took its place, and 1 month before the Paradise Fire became the deadliest fire in our state. We need to act. Now, we have 11 years to make change. That is less than 3 cohorts of high school students.
30 seconds.
I am trying to make that change by creating this program and, with all due respect, by coming here to tell you that the district is failing us. I am asking you to put our education on the environment first on your list. This is an emergency. The program I have developed can make a big step forward to helping students understand that. So I'm asking you again to read my petition and the draft credential program online and invite me back on January 14th and be prepared to take advantage of all of the work I have done and take action before my time as a student is over in June. Our collective time to start doing something about the destruction of our environment is almost up. So I hope the words behind you are a true articulation of your and our whole mission, and not just a slogan. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Our final 2 speakers will be John Morse, followed by Quinn Stefan.
Good evening. I'm John Morse. I'm a member of Fair Education Santa Barbara. I'm here tonight to talk about the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance at Dos Pueblos High School, or actually the absence of the pledge at Dos Pueblos. It's my understanding that Dos Pueblos has not been saying the Pledge of Allegiance and has not been conducting an alternative exercise as required by law. California Education Code, Section 57270, states in pertinent part, in every secondary school there shall be conducted daily appropriate patriotic exercises. The Pledge of Allegiance is one way of complying, and there are others. However, it appears that Dos Pueblos has been doing neither. Instead, Principal Bill Woodard apparently said that his site council has been discussing the sharing of historical patriotic fact, but that's a tacit admission that they have not been complying with the law. They've not been doing either the pledge or an alternative exercise. I would submit that this is not a good example for the students to flagrantly thumb their nose at a requirement of California Education Code. I would request that Dos Pueblos be required either to say the pledge about 15 seconds or to conduct the appropriate alternative.
Thank you. Our final speaker in public comment is Quinn Stefan.
Hello, my name is Quinn Stefan, and I'm speaking to you on behalf of the club at Dos Pueblos High School called Voices of the Community, made up of mostly students at Dos Pueblos, whose mission is to share the voices of underrepresented members of our community. This spring, on March 8th, International Women's Day 2020, we are introducing Her Festival, a day of celebration for the strong girls and women in our community and those who support them. This festival will be brought to the community by a team of dedicated high school students who handle all aspects of planning the festival, from securing funding to conducting outreach. Additionally, our organization is legally registered as an unincorporated organization and has a ratified DBA. As a predominantly female group, we know how adolescent girls struggle with knowing their value and understanding their potential. The issue of self-doubt develops early in a girl's life, restricting many from pursuing their passions and expressing their opinions. By presenting a supportive event focused on the empowerment of young women, we aim to address this widespread problem. Starting at 12 p.m. on March 8th, 2020, and continuing until 4 p.m., attendees will be able to enjoy a variety of entertainment and activities focused on empowering women. Our festival will include interactive booths, representation from organizations that assist women, and the opportunity for participants participants to meet dynamic women from local companies, all to focus on showcasing female strength and community. In addition, we will provide some of our own booths to give visitors a chance to express their opinions, explore their creativity, and most importantly, have fun. Her festival will also feature a main stage with musical performances and passionate local speakers. Visitors can also enjoy delicious food options provided by Santa Barbara food trucks. Our venue is Gersh Park, providing us with a location in the heart of the Goleta Valley and allowing our event to be held in a diverse and welcoming community of families and young women. Adult admission to the festival will be free and open to everyone, not just young women, as we want to bring the whole community together in support of female strength and empowerment. Her festival is not a for-profit event. It is an event to raise awareness and provide community support. With the help of generous sponsors and donations, we are making progress towards our budget goal for the event.
30 seconds.
We want Her Festival to give everyone in Santa Barbara, regardless of age, race, or gender, a day to come together and celebrate the strength of our society's amazing women and girls. More information on the event can be found at herfestivalsb.com. Thank you.
Thank you. President Simpson, that concludes public comment. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Matsuoka. Yes, it's at 7. Let me do some agenda management. We do have a public hearing set to 7 o'clock. We may take that before we get ahead of our organizational meeting. So, okay. So we will now move to the public hearing. The board will hold a public hearing concerning a request to the State Board of Education waive low bid requirements in education code so as to permit an option long-term lease of the Tatum property to be directly negotiated and with the selected developer. The long-term lease being proposed is for the purpose of developing and operating senior housing development, which will provide a stream of revenue to the district. We are now in the public hearing. No public comments? No public comments, okay. So we will close that hearing. I like that. All right, now we'll move back to our
So this is our annual organizational meeting where the board will select a president, vice president, and clerk. And so I have the honor of running the nomination for the position of president of the board. So is there a motion for president of the school board for the next 12 months?
Thank you, Mr. Matsuoka. I'd like to make a motion to nominate Ms. Laura Capps as president of the school board.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Ms. Capps.
Thank you so
Just have
much.
some comments to make as an outgoing person before we shift over. So first, as we are, I just first want to say happy holidays to our board and certainly to each and every one of you. As we come to this very important part of our leadership process, I would like to take this moment to express to my sister board members, not fellow board members, sister board members, it has been both an honor and a privilege to serve as board president. It has not been an easy year for any of us, but doing good things and staying steadfast in that is not easy. So we know we have a goal in mind to ensure that we prepare our students for a world that's yet to be creative. And as I said, this is not an easy task, but it cannot be done alone, Ms. Capps, in terms of that, knowing that you have 4 additional board members, as you know, in a cooking show, they give you 4 additional bakers to make sure that you meet your deadline. So we have 4 willing and ready board members to assist in that task as well. We all will have or have had the opportunity to sit in this seat of leadership and responsibility of the governing board, and we should do so feeling confident and have the encouragement and support of our sister board members. With that being said, I just appreciate you. Thank you. Know that you can go forth, and we got your back with regards to that. And so all the best. And I just going to say, girl, I am glad that I no longer have to tell people, stop clapping, do this, sit down, do all those things. But you've been great. I've grown in this process. So I want to appreciate literally everyone that is here and all the things, all the challenges, certainly with our staff and our cabinet, that it takes all of us to ensure that we're doing the absolute best for our students. And I would also say, that the problems and challenges that we have are not unique to Santa Barbara. I've traveled across the state and seen other things across the way, and so they're not unique to us. But what I do think is that we have the privilege here that we can solve. The uniqueness is that how we solve these problems and how we address them. And so we're in a good spot to do that, to make this the best district ever, and that's going to take everybody's effort. So thank you for all the things, good and challenging, I won't say bad, good and challenging, that helps us continue to grow and to strengthen this board to, with regards to our leadership and our governance. So welcome over and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to just thank President Sims Moten for your hard work. I've seen how hard you work, your compassion, your integrity, and the heart that you lead with this board. And because of that, we are a team. And with that team spirit of female leadership, I'm happy to take this new role and proceed as president. But thank you so much. I really want to appreciate your leadership.
Thank you. Ms. Ford? Oh, wait a minute. That's no longer my role.
That's right.
There you go.
Ms. Ford.
Can we make an exception and just give a round of applause for Ms. Sims Moten for her service this year?
Okay, we'll do, let's see, we'll stay here.
Yep.
Yes, we'll stay here.
Shift.
And bear with me as I go through this agenda. But next up would be to call for nominations for the position of vice president. Do we have any nominations?
Ms. Capps?
Yes.
I'd like
Ms.
to
Ford.
nominate Dr. Reed for the position of vice president of the board.
Any second?
I will second that.
Excellent. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Dr. Reed. You are once again vice president. Welcome. Okay, moving right along here. We call for nominations for the position of clerk. Any nominations? Ms. Ford, you got some nominations?
I also would like to nominate for the position of clerk, Rose Munoz for the position.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There we go. Congratulations, Ms. Munoz, as becoming clerk. And we have our new team here of leadership. So I think with that, we'll do some shuffling of the chairs. How about that? That's our ceremony.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, yeah, we can do that. Okay, and with that, I will close this item DA and move to item DB, which is the approval of dates, time, and place of regular scheduled board meetings through June 30th, 2021. Are we going to pull them up, or?
So, yeah, if Mr. Rouse could pull up that schedule. So, board and community, this is our continual pattern. We have typically 2 board meetings every month, second and fourth Tuesdays. We do have months with only 1 board meeting. You can see those. Now, there is a new law that went into place, which is why our meeting is taking place on a Monday instead of a normal Tuesday. And so, school board, we need your direction about next fall, because it is a school board election year. You will have new school board members to swear in, whether continuing or new. And somebody in Sacramento thought it was a good idea to do the swearing in on a Friday. I don't think that's a good idea, but that's the law. So your choice is we could do the Friday swearing in, which I think should be an early evening meeting, otherwise the community couldn't make it. And then you could have the regular school board meeting follow the next Tuesday. Or 1 meeting, this would be rare, a Friday night school board meeting, all together on that December 11th. So open to your input about which way you want to schedule this. 1 night or 2?
Anybody have an opinion? Kate, I mean, Ms. Ford. Excuse me.
I was just wondering, are you saying that the Ed Code now says it has to be a Friday? Okay.
Yes, the swearing in must be done on that specific Friday.
I think it's very hard for people to come, in my opinion, it's hard for people to come to meetings on Friday. And so I think, for me, I would like us to consider just doing the swearing in and have a regular meeting on our Tuesdays.
So you mean a short swearing in and then resume to a Tuesday regular board meeting? Dr. Reed, did you have a comment?
I would concur. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, I'm agnostic. Any opinions?
Yeah, I'm about having it short. Don't be worrying about my Friday night. So I'm
So just
about,
kind
you
of a
know.
ceremonial swearing in Friday would be at most probably 30 minutes or less. And then a regular board meeting on the Tuesday with the new board in place. Great. I actually appreciate that to some degree, having gone through this. It is a bit abrupt to be sworn in and then dive in right into the substance. So that maybe gives the weekend for everybody to deal with the agenda. So, okay, that's the direction we'll go then. Thanks, everybody. And I will just say, since we're talking about meetings, you might notice and they might be shorter under my tenure. That's the goal. So.
Oh, what you trying to say? So you're going to have less challenges because you're now the leader? Wait, hold on. Good luck with that, girl, but I got you.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Okay, let's closing item DB and moving to item DC, appointment of representatives to elect members of the Santa Barbara County Committee on School District Organization. This, Mr. Matsuoka, do you want to explain this?
Sure.
Please.
I don't want to over-explain this. Would the board tell me what degree of information refresher you need about this committee? Everybody good about the purpose of that committee? I can give you a one sentence or a one paragraph summary.
One sentence would be
Yeah.
great.
One sentence. This is a committee that meets, it's not met in my time as superintendent. They would have to convene to vote on issues about school district reorganization that really gets into school boundaries. So like if two districts wanted to merge or if somebody wanted to take property from one district and move it to another. So again, it has not met in the last 4 years. Ms. Ford.
I was wondering if this group also would be the one that begins to address the expansion of the board or the district development of the district, the school district?
I'm looking at our general counsel. Is this the committee that will be assisting us with the board election by trustee area? Mr. Price?
The committee, which is being discussed now, is different from the County Committee on School District Organization. The committee under discussion is to appoint members who, if called upon, will later vote on new members for the actual county committee. So the committee, which you're being asked to name a representative to, has been very inactive historically because members of the county committee have been otherwise appointed. But yes, Ms. Ford, the County Committee on School District Organization would play a role in any change in the number of governing board members.
Any volunteers?
I'd like to volunteer.
Okay,
I think it sounds really interesting, if they ever meet.
sounds good. Any objections? Are you
Do you wanna
okay?
do
Is that
it?
all right? Okay,
Do you want to
thank
do
you.
it?
We've got a bunch of other committees coming up, so I think there's plenty to go around. Okay, thank you, Ms. Ford. So I'm closing out that agenda item and moving to the final one in our board organizational meeting, which is item DD, which is the board meeting member committee appointments. So, Mr. Rouse, I'm not sure if you can pull this up, but I thought one way to do this efficiently is to just look at all of the committees, and then I'll go down the line and let folks, let you all say which preferences you have, and hopefully, as it's been in the past, things work out and all of us are covered, and we each do at least one, if not two, committees. So obviously, first we have the Audit Committee, where Ms. Ford has been serving, the Graduation Requirements Committee, where Dr. Jackie Reed has been serving, the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, where Ms. Ford has been serving, the Sustainability, where I have been, and the Santa Barbara Education Foundation, where Wendy Sims-Moten has been serving, and the South Coast Task Force on Youth Safety, where Dr. Reed has, and Adelante, where I have, and Santa Barbara Charter. So 2 charters and the rest. So I'm going to start with our past president, Ms. Sims-Moten, and just ask you to, if you have preferences. Obviously, continuation of service is absolutely fine. But we can do it this way, and we'll take notes and see where we end up after coming down the line.
I appreciate that. Thank you, President Capps. I would like to remain on the Audit Committee and the Santa Barbara Education Foundation, but I'm willing to become an alternate if someone else new would like to take that space.
Great, and this is really an opportunity, yes, if you are been curious about something and really want to check it out, we can work with each other. Okay, Ms. Ford.
Thanks. I wanted to also add, it's not on the list, but I serve on I've been serving on the Santa Barbara County Board Executive Committee, the one that meets in Solvang once a month. I'd like to continue with that if no one would like to take it over. So in addition to that, I'd like to do the Audit Committee and continue with Santa Barbara Charter School. I also, as you see, I'm on the Staff and Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, but because of other commitments, I haven't been able to make those meetings. So I think it would be better if someone else took that, and I can exchange with something else, but I think they're like Wednesday evenings, and I have other commitments.
Okay. Ms. Munoz.
Certainly, I'd be interested in the Parent Advisory Committee at San Marcos.
Great. Any others?
Yeah, and I could help as needed.
Okay, we'll see what's needed as we continue this. Dr. Reed.
Yes, I'd like to remain on the Graduation Requirements Committee, and I'm happy, I would like to get back involved with CPAC, Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, so I can take on Ms. Ford's representation.
That was the one that Ms. Munoz
Oh, I'm
requested.
sorry, that's what you took? Oh, sorry, I thought you said, okay, the San Marcos, never mind. I'll just stick with Grad Requirements Committee and step down from the task force.
Okay.
But I'd be interested in staying involved with Adelante. So I can remain as the alternate if you wanted to remain as the rep.
Great. So let's see here. Myself, I'd like to stay on sustainability, so that's, seems like that will work. And I'd be happy to, if you want to be the Adelante, I love, but it's been challenging to make their meetings on Monday nights for me with my son. But if you would like to do that, you're welcome to. Adelante?
Okay.
Is that too many?
So, how often do they meet?
It's once a month.
That's once a month.
I mean, we could stay as this order and just be in better communication about who's there.
That sounds good.
Okay, so we'll
Okay.
keep it as is. What's open then? What is currently open then would be the South Coast Task Force on Youth Safety Needs.
I'm interested in that, Ms. Capps.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
I am. Dr. Reed, when are the meetings generally?
It's 4 times a year.
Yeah, I know that. I'm just wondering if you know do you remember what days of the week or?
Dr. Wagenknecht has that answer.
Oh, great.
There are 4 meetings per year, and they are Wednesday afternoons from 3 to 5 p.m.
So I'd be happy to take that.
That'd be great. It's been hard for my teaching schedule to make it, so.
Okay.
There is a charter school that somehow got dropped off the list. It's Peabody Charter.
You don't have a rep to Peabody?
We haven't had a rep.
Huh.
In your memory, we didn't.
No, in fact, Craig probably remembers, but there was a decision not to do
Oh.
that, as it might be some kind of a conflict.
Okay.
Because they're independent.
Okay.
Well, I
It could
think,
always change, but we haven't.
I think we have it covered then. It's relatively the same with some minor changes. Is everyone clear? And we're feeling good? And these, of course, we can rely on the alternatives if need be, the alternates. Okay, well, that's great. Thanks to my sister board members for agreeing to do this extra work throughout the month. I will then close item DD and move on to item E, acceptance of donations.
I move acceptance of donations for December 16, 2019, with gratitude.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you to those who've donated. Now moving on to the consent agenda, item F. Do we have any, do my fellow board meetings have any agenda items that they wish to pull? Actually, I do think we do have comment on at least one.
We have comment on H, but that's H5.
Maybe I'm incorrect
No.
there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we don't have it.
Okay, so then back to my original question. Do we have any items in consent that any board members wish to pull?
Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Reed.
Number 5.
Okay. Any others from anybody else? And Dr. Reed, is this a short question, or would you like to put it towards the end of the agenda?
I think it's short. Yeah.
Okay, item D5, I'm sorry, F5, approval of modification 01 to research agreement between Santa Barbara Unified School District and the University of California at Santa Barbara for the evaluation of the Just Community Central Coast services.
Yes, I just want a quick clarification, can you update on this evaluation? Is there any there's adjustments to the research process, so I just sort of wanted to know what those were, and why the extension of time. So just those two quick questions.
Good evening, Dr. Reed and other board members, and congratulations to the new officers on the Board of Trustees. And I'm glad that Dr. Guillermo is coming up, and I know she'll introduce our other guest as well and her affiliation. You're correct that this is on the agenda, on the consent agenda, because there's a modification to research design, not a modification to the contract for the evaluation. I'm going to let Dr. Guillermo speak to that.
Good evening, Board. Superintendent Matsuoka. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I would like to answer the first question, the second question first. And there is not an extension of time for the contract. The original agreement was through December 2020. And so we are still on track with getting a preliminary report to the board by this April 1st, 2020, with all of the analysis being completed by December 2020 and an ensuing report for the following annual planning cycle. So I'd like to make that clear, no changes to timeline. As for the research design, I have here Dr. Carolyn Satin-Bajaj, who is a professor at UCSB's Graduate School of Education. She comes to us very highly qualified as a qualitative expert, has worked with the New York Department of Education, and has done international research on K-12 education. So in our time working, she's come recently to UCSB this summer, and so as she's become part of the evaluation team and taken leadership in the qualitative project, she discovered that some of the research questions that we had brought to you this past spring were interesting scientifically, as mentioned in the board packet, but not as closely aligned to our objectives for contracting with Just Communities. So that's the underlying basis for the change in 2 of the 4 qualitative evaluation questions. Do you have further questions regarding
That's
this?
it. I just wanted to have a little more clarification. And
Great.
thank you.
Thank
And
you.
welcome.
Okay, with that clarification, can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay, moving right along here. We will move to, we've already done our public hearing, so we are now, that takes us to our action agenda, where we normally take a 5-minute break in between Oh, no, I'm sorry, never mind, we're going to keep moving. So item H, H1, the adoption of resolution number 2019-2020-17 of the Board of Education of the Santa Barbara Unified School District requesting a State Board of Education waiver of competitive bidding procedures relating to a long-term lease of the Tatum property. Mr. Matsuoka.
So, school board, this project has been in motion for about a decade, I believe. I mean, it certainly precedes all of you, precedes me. It's been a long time coming. We, as you have heard, we are on the verge of being able to be under contract with the developer. This is a procedural step that Mr. Price has guided us toward. So I'll invite Craig Price to really offer a quick overview and then respond to any of your questions.
Mr. Price, welcome.
Thank you.
16 years.
Normally, the California Education Code requires that leases be let pursuant to a sealed bid process, which would be a high bid, the best return for the district. However, it's been learned over the years throughout the state of California that when negotiating a complex and long-term lease arrangement, that type of a procedure to establish a lessee is not ordinarily beneficial for the lessor, for the school district. Instead, leases like we are presently negotiating with a developer require extensive negotiation and back and forth and due diligence prior to actual signing of documentation. And so over the years, the State Board of Education has come to recognize that the Education Code provisions should be waivable in a wide number of situations. In fact, we got a waiver from the State Board in 2016, I believe, and it expired. And we have, in recent months, been working with a different developer who took an assignment from the original Tobes team with whom we were working. And we're very close to presenting the board with an option and a long-term lease for your consideration and review by the public as well. But this is a prerequisite that we have to fulfill before we can proceed with that documentation. So our recommendation is approval of the resolution. This will be submitted along with a significant number of additional items at the State Board of Education meeting in March.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Any questions or comments from the board? Yeah.
So what's the timeline in terms of their approval of this resolution? We submit it to the state, and then what's the timeline?
Assuming your board approval, we're going to submit it electronically on Wednesday morning, and then it will be reviewed by the CDE staff who works with the state board, and it will be placed on their early March agenda, maybe March 8. I don't remember exactly. We'll find out beforehand whether, as I expect, it's going to, in essence, be treated as a consent item, not requiring personal attendance, but we'll find that out.
Do you anticipate any challenges seeing how we have a prior approval of a resolution before? Do you see any challenges with this one?
No, none at all.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Price. Moving forward, item H2, approval of an agreement with Sage Energy Consulting Clean Coalition to perform a feasibility study for a potential district-wide installation of solar power, battery storage, and electric vehicle charging stations using a power purchase agreement. Mr. Matsuoka and Mr. Steve Vizzolini.
I'll offer opening comments and then turn it over to Mr. Vizzolini. The school board meeting in November, I believe, was November 14th. We brought to you the concept of 12th and had an RFP letter. We put it out. We had one response, but an interesting response. It is a joint offer to provide consulting services between Sage Energy.
Clean Coalition.
Well, I'm finishing the first.
Oh, Sage Energy Consultants, yeah.
Who've done extensive work across school districts up and down the state. We were really pleased with their experience. But we have a local entity, the Clean Coalition, that is emerging expert in microgrids. And we need microgrids in Santa Barbara because the world of future power shutoffs is going to be part of our future. I see Craig Lewis standing in the back. He's the executive director of the Clean Coalition. We had a very robust interview. It was just a really rich, deep discussion. I would say we left very confident in this pair of firms to guide us through. So Mr. Vizzolini is going to walk you through the slide deck, and then we'll take questions.
Well, I'll walk you through what's left of the slide deck. I guess what I would say is that based on this conversation, we wanted to reiterate that our goals in sustainability are to get solar power, battery storage, electric vehicle charging stations, and microgrids with the idea of sustaining resiliency. So the idea of resiliency is that we would use our battery storage to provide power for critical loads at our schools, such as walk-in coolers and freezers, maybe data centers, so we would have some ability to keep schools online. Not sure whether we could support classroom time, but we're going to research that. With the fires and the debris flow and the things we've been having, these power outages are a common occurrence these days. And when you factor in the public safety power shutdowns, it's a reality. And this comes into play because, we have an agreement with the Red Cross, and they like to use our campuses for evacuation centers, and San Marcos is their number one choice. San Marcos has been on the PSPS list every single time so far. So setting up some resiliency at San Marcos makes a lot of sense. We talked about the power purchase agreement, so I just wanted to offer a little reminder that typically they're 20 to 25 years. It gives us the benefit of negotiating our power costs over the length of the PPA, so they're predictable. All of the equipment, the installation, the maintenance, and the repair of that equipment is all included in the PPA. So technically for 25 years, the finance company is responsible for all of that work. So there's no upfront cost for the district, and there's no ongoing maintenance on those items for 25 years, or whatever our term is that we negotiate. As Mr. Mostuoco said, the RFP was generated. We got one response. We were very satisfied with the proposal we got. It was a very interesting and unique combination of a statewide entity that has a lot of experience with school districts, universities, and municipalities. In fact, I did some cold calling with some of their clients, and the comments we got were they were some of the best consultants they've ever worked with. And that was consistent from an $80 million project to a $1 million project. So we're very confident that we're dealing with a good group. So we did our interviews. We came out good in what we're asking. We were so impressed with them that now we're asking to move forward. So what we see here, thank you, Brian, is a list of the first 6 tasks in their management schedule. So these are feasibility studies at 2 different levels, assessing the microgrid and finding out where those loads are and what we want to identify. Doing the RFP for procurement, vendor selection, and contracting support. You can see that the cost for these first tasks is $287,900. The second set of tasks, 7 through 11, are more construction related. So there are things like design, approval by division of state architect, development of an RFP for the financer, and the construction of the program if we get that far. Also, they'll do commissioning at the end, so that we'll make sure that the system that we get installed is the one that we we're expecting and that it's performing as we expected it to. It's very important to understand that this contract will have an opt-out for us. So we could do it at any time. We could do it after the first study. If it turns out that we can't discover a way to make this financially viable for the district, we're not going to be locked into a contract, but it could happen at any point. So we think that that's important. Funding for this, we're proposing to use state matching funds that came from our school facility program. So that is grants that we've received from the state already that are for bond projects from the past. So we submit paperwork, we get matching funds. We just got some for the Washington School Library probably about 3 weeks ago. So currently that fund has over $700,000 in it. So we've got some space to finance this and take care of our initial study. Timeline. Very aggressive timeline for us, and the reason for that is that there are incentives that we need to think about. Some of them are tax credits that are a benefit to the financer, which allow us to have a better rate, to negotiate a better rate. There's also a program called the Self-Generation Incentive Program that starts in January of 2020 that gives an opportunity to apply for one-time grant money to support, programs like this. So time is of the essence. So what we're proposing is that we do tasks 1 through 6 and have them done by June of 2020 so that we're ready to enter into a contract if it makes sense. After we've done our analysis, if it makes sense, we'll be good to go. Tasks 7 through 11 are construction related, as we talked about. So there's going to be a little bit of a delay there, but we're still anticipating that we could have infrastructure and systems up and running by 2022. So what we're asking for tonight is for the board to approve the contract with Sage and Clean Energy to move forward as our consultant on the project. And we're also asking the board to grant authority to the superintendent to sign these contracts if they make sense so that we can get them done in a timely manner without having to wait for board meetings if necessary. So with that,
Excellent.
See if you have any questions.
or comments from the board? Thank you, Mr. Vizzolini. Yeah, Ms. Ford.
I think it looks really well organized, thoughtful, and I'm excited about the potential of this. Thank you.
Ms. Munoz.
I have a question, and forgive me for asking. The microgrids, do we have an idea where they would be built, or?
They would be on the sites where the batteries are. So we wouldn't have one microgrid that feeds all of our schools. We would have a microgrid at San Marcos and one at Dos Pueblos, because the battery storage, the idea is that you charge the batteries when the rates are low or when you have solar power to do that, and you use the battery when the rates are high or when we have a power outage. But we would also be able to program those batteries so that they never deplete fully. So overnight, they would make it if we had a power outage. If we get into a PSPS, we know that the battery storage would be sufficient to deal with these loads. And we'd have to identify them at each school and determine what's important. But maybe the gym at San Marcos is important to keep the lights on and the heat on in an evacuation time. So those are all things that we would have to consider.
Thank you.
Any other, Ms. Sims-Winton.
Thank you. So my question would be for the approval of the superintendent. Is there up to an amount that we would not have to come back to the board? I understand the efficiency of time, so.
Let's go back one slide. So the contract that Mr. Price is working through with Sage is for up to that amount, $287,900,
Okay.
not to exceed that, with a clause to exit at any time.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Any other questions or comments? Well, I'll speak. This is thrilling, and I want to sort of bring it back, big picture. I so believe in our schools as safe havens for our community, and we've seen that now with the disasters that we've experienced. I remember getting food at La Cumbra while the mudslide, I think while we were evacuated from the fire, and had this amazing pozole because we were serving kids. And we saw how our first responders used San Marcos High School as a place to communicate. And this is just a huge investment in the reality that we have this new normal of extreme climate-related events that means that parts of our community are under real stress and trauma, and for our schools to be the place where the lights are literally on and there's heat and food is so important, I think, for our community and for Santa Barbara and for what it represents. Our schools are all over this community in low-income areas and high-income areas. That's really important. We're not just serving one segment, but we're serving all. And I hope that the student from San Marcos was here, probably not, but this is also just such an important signal to this generation that we are taking our climate crisis seriously. We're literally making an investment tonight with this approval of a very bold vision of a new reality of what we need to deal with, and the reality that, as he so eloquently stated, is their future. So I'm so pleased. I will also say that Mr. Price and I and some others were part of a stakeholder community meeting that the Community Environmental Council put on about a month ago. 150 firefighters, first responders, UCSB climate experts, wildfire experts, and the number one solution that came out of that day-long session was microgrids, that is really what we need to be doing. We need to be self-sufficient when we need to. We need to obviously take more energy, not from fossil fuels, but from solar, and this is what this plan does, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to be on this board, and I love the synchronicity that this is what we're voting on as one of my first votes as president, so I'm thrilled. I hope you can tell that, but thank you for the thoughtfulness and also with the speed. I love that this is moving forward so quickly. I'm very pleased. Thank you. And with that, I will call for a vote. Any motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There we go. Okay, that item passes. Thank you, Mr. Vizzolini. Thank you, Mr. Matsuoka. Thank you, Mr. Price. And we're going to do a little agenda management to be sensitive to folks in the audience who need to get home to young children. So we are going to move our last item of the night, which would be item I8.
H. Or 8. 8, yes, I8.
It's I8.
I8.
Up to this stage now. So I believe, Dr. Reed, that
Yes.
we have some comments for that. And that, just to read it out loud, that is the review and discussion of the executive search firm proposals for the recruitment of the new superintendent and selection of finalists to present to the Board of Education.
So I'm going to call the first 3 people up, and we will have, it'll be 6 minutes if we're doing interpretation. And the first is Socorro Ramirez, Victor Garmona, and Peggy Ochoa.
Sí, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Socorro
Good
Ramírez.
evening. Good evening. My name is Socorro Ramirez,
Y soy representante de DILAC en Goleta Valley Junior High.
and I am the representative for DLAC at Goleta Valley Junior High.
Y tengo 2 hijos, uno en Goleta Valley Junior High y otro en Dos Pueblos High School.
I have 2 children, one at Goleta Valley Junior High and the other at Dos Pueblos High School.
Y me gusta involucrarme en las escuelas de mis hijos porque me importa la educación de ellos.
I like to be involved in my children's education because I believe it's important to be involved in their education.
Y estoy aquí para pedirles que estas juntas del consejo se dieran a conocer por medio de la radio en español.
And I am here to see if you will consider offering and sharing these board meetings through the radio in Spanish.
De esta manera, el mensaje llegaría a muchos padres que tienen hijos en las escuelas del distrito de Santa Bárbara.
And this way, the information could reach a lot of parents who have children in the schools here at Santa Barbara Unified School District.
También quiero darle las gracias al superintendente, el señor Matsuoka, por todos los años de trabajo y por la ayuda para todos los estudiantes.
And I also want to thank the superintendent, Mr. Matsuoka, for allowing our children to be successful and for serving our schools for so many years.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes a todos los del Consejo, buenas tardes a todos los asistentes.
Good evening, board members, and good evening to everybody here in attendance.
Mi nombre es Víctor Carmona, soy padre de 2 estudiantes en la Escuela Dos Pueblos y miembro del DILAC.
My name is Victor Carmona, and I am the parent of 2 students at Dos Pueblos High School, and I am a member of the DLAC committee.
Antes que nada quiero darle las gracias al señor Matsuoka por todos los años de trabajo y por la ayuda a todos nuestros estudiantes.
So before I begin, I just want to thank Mr. Matsuoka for all of the years of service and for the help he has given to all of our students.
Pronto estaremos empezando el proceso para elegir un nuevo superintendente.
So we will soon begin the process to elect the new superintendent.
Esto sin duda nos dará la oportunidad de comprometernos a participar de alguna u otra manera
And this will give us the opportunity to participate in one way or another,
para que hagamos la mejor elección para este importante puesto en nuestro distrito.
and we want to make the best decision for this position for our district.
Como sabemos, poco más del 50% de los alumnos en el distrito son estudiantes bilingües emergentes.
So as we know, a little more than 50% of all of the students in the district are emerging bilingual students.
Esto nos compromete a participar aún más en proponer algunas recomendaciones para tratar de incluirlas en el proceso.
And that is why it's important that we participate in giving recommendations so that you all can take them into account during the process.
En el proceso de elección de la agencia que va a tener a cargo el proceso de buscar a la persona idónea,
That very important process that you will take on to select the agency that will be looking for our new superintendent, looking for the ideal person for our district.
que trabaje en todas las áreas en las que se debe de poner énfasis.
That person who will need to work in all of the areas where they need to pay special focus.
Y en los proyectos que se tienen en nuestro distrito a corto, mediano y largo plazo.
That person who will have to attend to the special projects that we have here in the district, short term, medium term, and long term.
Sin duda sabemos que Santa Bárbara es un lugar muy especial,
So we know that Santa Barbara is a very special place
con una historia rica en cultura.
with a very rich cultural history.
Por esta razón nos gustaría recomendar que esta agencia tuviera cierta experiencia
For that reason, we would like to suggest that this agency have a certain type of experience
en la contratación de personas con comunidades multilingües y comunidades multiculturales.
in hiring staff members and in communities that are multicultural and multilingual.
Otra de las peticiones para esta empresa sería que debido a lo que los miembros de la comunidad hispana
So another thing that we would like to see in this agency
no tiene la forma de comunicación tradicional, la falta de acceso y o conocimiento en la computación o email, por ejemplo.
we would like them to take into account that the Latino community does not have a whole lot of access to the traditional digital and computer type of communication.
Sería un obstáculo en la comunidad para poder expresar opiniones.
So if the input was taken through this method, that would limit the participation of our community.
Nuestra recomendación serían medios nuestra recomendación, medios alternativos como serían volantes de papel repartidas de varias maneras.
So we would recommend using alternative methods like
Por ejemplo.
sharing paper copy flyers and different things like that.
Algo que ellos ya a esta compañía ya les dio resultados positivos en el aspecto de comunicación
Whatever
con
has been
comunidades en español.
whatever has been proven useful to these agencies communicating with people who speak Spanish.
Algo que nos gustaría es que los estudiantes también sean parte del proceso de elección, dándoles información.
Another thing that we would like is for students to be able to participate in this selection process.
Esto ayudará a que los estudiantes entiendan la importancia y compartan sus opiniones para tomarlas en cuenta en esta decisión.
This would help the students understand the importance of this position and also so that they could share their opinions so that they could be taken into account in this decision.
Por último, nuestra comunidad también estaría abierta a oír algún plan de trabajo de estas compañías para que el proceso si hubiera oportunidad de hacerlo.
And lastly, our community would also love to see some kind of work plan proposed by these agencies to see what would be the process and to see if we could have the
30 seconds.
opportunity to look at that.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Buena suerte, señor Mutsuoka.
Good luck, Mr. Matsuoka.
Thank you. What he said. I'm kidding. Good evening, everybody. My name is Peggy Ochoa. I work at San Marcos High School as the Intervention Center Supervisor. I am also a former Santa Barbara Unified student and now a parent of 5 boys. 3 of them have IEPs and 3 of them were classified as English learners. 2 of my sons graduated from high school 6 months ago. I have a senior now, an 8th grader, and a 6th grader. And as a mother and employee of the Santa Barbara Unified District, I find that communication both between district to families and school to families is at many times very challenging and frustrating. And especially for the almost 60% of Latinos of whom are non-English speaking. Which is why I am asking tonight that you please consider using as many resources as possible regarding all communication for the process to hire a new superintendent. Like I told you before, I am sad to see you go, but I'm happy for you, Mr. Matsuoka. Thank you for what you have done. And I do understand that we have many programs already in place, but some of us don't consistently check our emails or Parent Square accounts, but we might be on Facebook almost daily. So please use as many social media platforms as if possible. And for those of us who do not have access to the internet, the best way to receive communication from our child's school is through flyers, phone calls, texts, radio, TV. I believe it is crucially important to have all communication available to all regarding the hiring process for our new superintendent, as well as any other important things going on in our district. Thank you. Thank you. So we have 3 additional people, Laura Gomez, Margarita Mendoza, and Ramiro Sanchez.
Buenas noches, distinguidos miembros del Consejo de Educación.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education.
Mi nombre es Laura Gómez. Soy presidenta asesora del comité del DILAC.
My name is Laura Gomez, and I am one of the past presidents of the DLAC committee.
Y tengo una hija en la escuela Dos Pueblos High School en el 11º grado.
And my daughter is at Dos Pueblos High School, and she is in 11th grade.
Mi comentario esta noche es sobre la agencia que será contratada para reclutar a los candidatos para el puesto de superintendente.
My comment tonight is with regards to the agency that will be selected to recruit the candidates for the position of superintendent.
Como ustedes saben, y las estadísticas lo demuestran, el 60% de los estudiantes en el distrito son latinos. Es increíble, pero cierto.
And as you all know, and the statistics show it, 60% of the students in the school district are Latinos. It's incredible, but it's true.
Por esta razón, creemos que será de suma importancia que la agencia a contratar cuente con representantes latinos.
And for that reason, we believe that it will be very important that whatever agency is selected have representatives who are Latino.
Que tengan un amplio conocimiento de nuestra región demográfica.
We would like for them to have knowledge of our region and our demographics.
Además de eso, que tengan experiencia en reclutar líderes para distritos con iniciativas multilingües.
And besides that, we would like to see that they have experience in recruiting leaders for districts with multilingual initiatives.
Y por supuesto, que conozcan y entiendan nuestra cultura y nuestras necesidades.
And of course, that they know and understand our culture and our needs.
Esto abriría sin duda una amplia comunicación con la comunidad de habla hispana.
Without a doubt, this would open up tremendous opportunities for communication with the Latino community and the Spanish-speaking community.
Recuerdo que en una presentación que hicimos a ustedes, nos preguntaron de qué otra forma nos podrían ayudar. Creo que esta es la mejor forma de ayudarnos. Muchas gracias.
I remember that during one of our presentations that we gave here before you, you all asked us how else you could help. And so I believe that this is the best way for you to be able to help our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Buenas noches al consejo.
Good evening, members of the board.
Señor Matsuoka.
Mr. Matsuoka.
Mi nombre es Margarita Mendoza.
My name is Margarita Mendoza.
Tengo 2 hijos.
I have 2 children.
Mi hija asiste a la escuela primaria Roosevelt de este distrito.
My daughter is at Roosevelt Elementary School here in this district.
Y soy voluntaria de DLAC como copresidenta.
And I am a volunteer with the DLAC committee, and I am one of the co-presidents.
Como madre latina, es esfuerzo doble en los idiomas para poder ser parte de la educación de mis hijos.
As a Latina mother, it takes double the effort for me to be able to participate and be part of my children's education.
Y a pesar de toda la información de la tecnología, como lo es Facebook, emails y llamadas a los padres latinos de este distrito de Santa Bárbara,
And so we receive information through technology, like Facebook, emails, and phone calls for Latino parents.
me gustaría ver la información del procedimiento de postura para el siguiente superintendente en este distrito y que sea en el idioma, en nuestro idioma.
I would like to see the information for the process for hiring the next superintendent in this district, that information be shared in our language.
Este acto sería de mucha ayuda para todos los padres latinos en este distrito.
And that would help a lot of Latino parents in this school district.
Gracias. Buenas
Thank you.
noches.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Buenas noches, miembros del consejo.
Good evening, members of the board.
Mi nombre es Ramiro Sánchez.
My name is Ramiro Sanchez.
Tengo estudiantes en las escuelas La Cumbre Junior High y la escuela Harding.
My children attend La Cumbre Junior High and Harding.
Soy parte de ILAC en la escuela La Cumbre Junior High y representante de esta misma escuela en DLAC.
So I am part of the ELAC committee at La Cumbre Junior High, and I also represent this school at our DLAC committee.
Sabemos que ustedes son los que van a elegir un nuevo superintendente
We know that you are the ones that will select the new superintendent,
y estamos aquí para ayudarlos a reconocer nuestras necesidades.
and we are here to help you understand our needs.
Mi comentario es sobre la accesibilidad del procedimiento para el reclutamiento del superintendente.
And I would like to make a comment with regards to the accessibility of the information about the process for recruiting the new superintendent.
Como comunidad, el lenguaje es una barrera para muchos de nosotros.
As a community, language is a barrier for many of us.
En ocasiones muchos nos sentimos intimidados, pero claro que nos importa la educación de nuestros hijos.
Sometimes many of us feel intimidated, but of course we feel that our children's education is important.
Porque aparte, lo más que nosotros participemos, lo más que nuestros hijos se sentirán apoyados.
Because, the more we participate, the more our children will feel supported.
Queremos atraer la participación de nuestra comunidad al reclutamiento del nuevo superintendente.
We want more members of our community to participate in the process of the recruitment for the superintendent.
Ocupamos varios medios de comunicación e información porque somos una comunidad diversa con diferentes necesidades.
So we need different methods of communication and information because we are a diverse community with different needs.
La demográfica de nuestro distrito es 60% latino.
The demographics in our district are 60% Latino.
Somos mayoría y nos gustaría ver esta representación.
We are a majority and we would like to see this representation.
Es importante que el proceso incluya nuestra voz como comunidad.
It is important for the process to include our voice as a community.
Ocupamos más accesibilidad en este proceso y en general.
We need more accessibility during this process and in general.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have two more, Rosario Garcia, and Aiden Navarrete.
Buenas noches, miembros del consejo y asistentes.
Good evening, members of the board and everybody present.
Hola, mi nombre es Rosario García. Soy copresidenta del comité de ILAC en la Escuela La Cumbre.
Hello, my name is Rosario Garcia and I am the co-president of the ELAC committee at La Cumbre Junior High School.
Soy mamá de Areli Pacheco, estudiante de 8º grado.
I am the mother of Areli Pacheco, a student in 8th grade.
En mi opinión, me gustaría que la empresa encargada de reclutar un nuevo superintendente
And in my opinion, I would like to see the agency that is hired to recruit the new superintendent.
busque las siguientes cualidades:
I would like for them to look for the following qualities.
que conozca nuestra región demográfica,
I would like for them to be familiar with our region and the demographics,
sea bilingüe,
that they have bilingual personnel,
que tenga experiencia previa con estas cualidades.
and that they have previous experience dealing with a district that is similar to ours.
Esto resultaría una relación positiva
This would result in a positive relationship
y mejoraría la comunicación entre padre, maestro y distrito.
and this would improve the communication between parents, teachers, and the district.
La razón es porque somos un 60% de latinos.
And we are 60% of Latinos in this district,
que conforma los estudiantes del mismo.
and that is the makeup of our district.
Nada más agregar. Gracias por todo el soporte al superintendente Matsuka.
And I would just like to add, thank you very much to the superintendent, Mr. Matsuoka.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Adán Navarrete.
Good evening, my name is Adan Navarrete.
Soy representante del comité ILAC de la Santa Barbara Community Academy,
And I am a representative of the ELAC committee from Santa Barbara Community Academy.
donde mi hija cursa el segundo grado,
And my daughter is in 2nd grade there.
y a nombre de toda la comunidad de padres que lo conforman,
And on behalf of all of the parents that make up that committee,
y que me honra representar,
and it's my honor to represent them,
sugerimos a este honorable consejo,
we suggest to this honorable board
sírvase recomendar a la empresa encargada del proceso de reclutamiento
that you take into account our comments to select the agency that will recruit the new superintendent,
la realización de foros, encuestas o algún otro mecanismo pertinente
So we would like for you to ask the agency to have forums, surveys, or other mechanisms that are relevant,
en español
and that they provide that in Spanish,
que garantice y o facilite
in order to guarantee or to facilitate
la participación de nuestra comunidad en este importante proceso.
The participation of our community during this very important process.
Creo que la mejor forma de avanzar es integrándonos como comunidad sin importar
I think the best way to move forward is to join together as a community,
nuestro idioma o nuestro color de piel.
regardless of our language or color of our skin.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That ends public comment.
Thank you so much to our speakers for coming. So now, Ms. Sims-Moten, do you want to lead this? Because you've done or would you like me to?
Oh, we can work it out, girl. I'll start out, then I'll let
Great.
you bring it on.
Thanks.
Just so that this is the second phase of our process with regards to the superintendent search. As we had said before, we had sent out an RFP. And I think we had about 6 agencies that had a letter of intent to apply, and we received 4 of them back, all of 4 which we will discuss this evening. And this process is to seek them to come back and make a presentation. And so at that time, you'll be able to also see what presentation they're going to be making, and we will be taking into consideration also your comments with regards to your characteristics you'd like to see in the agency. So there will be another opportunity to take into consideration what you're asking for this evening, and be able to hopefully see that in their presentation. If not, then be able to whoever we select to come back, and then ultimately who we select then to take into your consideration as to what you'd like to see in forms and how you'd have to have that information come back to you. So at this point, we can just open the discussion. Ms. Capps.
Excellent. Any questions or comments from the board on the 4 proposals?
I'll just say initially, as we looked at the 4, some of the things that I looked at was costs, and they're relatively the same with regards to costs across all 4 of them. There wasn't one that was higher than others or extremely lower than others with regards to that. And many of the things that you have stated here tonight, I also took into to account the size of the district. Have they worked in other districts? What searches when those districts, the makeup of us and the demographic of those districts, have they worked there in terms of those pieces? And also with regards to districts our size in terms of those characteristics and how they would address those issues as part of their proposals that they were saying. And so 2 stood out for me with regards to what I would recommend to have come back and make an additional presentation for the board. So I don't know if I can read those later,
Yep.
but
No, I think it would be helpful to hear which ones.
yes, I would like to see the CSBA proposals come back, one of those, as well as the leadership proposal, as well as they did, I believe, the search for this principal. So they've worked with this district before and familiar with the characteristics of this district. So those are the 2 I would like to see move forward.
Right. Dr. Reed.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Sims-Moten. I would agree. I wanted to point out, excuse me, with Leadership and Associates, it being local, I thought that was really important. And it actually really, we're just speaking to the public comment that we just had, referenced English and Spanish needs and survey forums and input sessions, as well as noted on page 5, the insistence for diversity and multicultural richness as a valued strength. Also, I think the input they provided was opportunities for students and community commitment to support the school. So I think student engagement in this process. And they seem to have, which I think was really important, is an understanding of the district. Some of the presentations were boilerplate, in my opinion, and this one actually felt connected in terms of seeing that we have challenges with our achievement gap. Our fiscal picture needs to be focused on looking at special ed and having knowledge of the community. Also, similar districts, Oxnard School District, Santa Maria, Berkeley up north, and then Goleta. Goleta Unions, bless you. So I would agree with Leadership and Associates as one of the ones. And I also What I liked about McPherson and Jacobson was the fact that though they're located in Omaha, Nebraska, they're the people that they were recommending to be the leads. Dr. Daryl Adams, it was in Rancho Cucamonga, but also a past superintendent. He happened to be Teacher of the Year. And Ben Johnson were from Irvine. So they were local. So the local, in terms of state, not as local as certainly Leadership and Associates. And the districts that they have supported are Conejo Valley with 19,500 students, Ventura Unified in 1617 with 17,000 students, in Santa Clarita, and then Cold Springs, which was only 170 students, but a local community. And I liked that within the knowledge framework that stakeholder involvement was important, which I would say was also key with Leadership and Associates. So if I had to pick two, those would be my two too. Thank you.
Ms. Ford.
Thank you. There we go. I completely agree. I feel like, notwithstanding the comments Dr. Reed made about specificity with Leadership Associates, I do think that a lot of it seems to be a boilerplate. So I was looking for just two things, experience and stakeholder involvement. So with those particular two that Ms. Sims-Moten and Dr. Reed suggested, they had the most robust explanation of what they would do for stakeholder involvement, and they have a wealth of experience in California. So for that, I'm in favor of those two also.
Nice consensus. Okay, Ms. Munoz.
I'm in favor of those two. I looked at, who the consultants are and what their backgrounds are and the schools that they've worked with. I know with, with McPherson and Jacobson, I wondered about, if they had a consultant that was Latino, that had an experience with the Latino community. I did notice that also with Ray and Associates, that they had, Michael Martinez, who has a background with Latinos in Phoenix, Arizona, different schools of different sizes and such. And so that one stood out to me, just in terms of, that, for example, that he had the Hispanic Superintendent of the Year award in 1998. So I like the proposals of the two that my fellow board sisters propose and support, and such. And so then I just, am listening out to the concerns that the parents have and the percentage of Latino students in our schools.
Excellent. Well, I'm certainly not going to disagree. I appreciated these ones as well. And I do think it's incumbent upon us to do reference checks. And so I think that, for me, would be the next phase of this as we reach out to have them come give presentations. But certainly we can reach out to the school districts where they've done searches to see how they went. So any other comments or questions? It sounds like we have, yeah, Ms. Ford?
Well, I was wondering if we want to make any specific requests of them for the two going forward, or
Certainly, I'm open to your input.
Well, for example, I was thinking about what Ms. Munoz said, like, could we ask each one of them to have a specific strategy
Sure.
for reaching out to the Latinx population?
Sure. That's an excellent point of view. I think we all are very appreciative of the comments tonight and the input, and we'll take that very much front and center as we move forward. So I'm glad that of these proposals, we seem to have consistent consensus around these two. So I think with that, we need an action. We need a motion. No, we do not. This
No,
is
it's discussion. We just need to
we
clear-
moved it. We are, yes,
Yeah.
we moved it around. So we just are discussing. So no motion is needed. I appreciate the consensus, and it gives good direction for the next steps.
Yeah, and we'll be working with Sandra to continue that, so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So now
Yeah.
we'll go back to our action agenda. section H, but we are going to do a little more management to acknowledge speakers who are here and move up into the agenda item H. Let's see, H5. Just swap it around a little bit to be mindful of our speakers. And I believe, Dr. Reed, that there's some speakers. This is for item H5, review and approval of food services recommendations.
Yes, we do. We have a number of public comments. So I will start with the first three: Holly Gill, Michael Baker, and then Linda Robertson. There's no N, but Robertson.
You ready? Good evening, board. After looking through the documents, I just have concerns about cutting the free breakfast at the particular schools that don't already qualify for free and reduced lunch. And I realize it's a huge expense. I don't know if there's another way to lower the cost per meal, or I know at least at the high schools, there's free breakfast and nutrition. The reason I'm advocating for this is I know that there are many kids who that is the one time during the day that they eat. And even just the slowing it down where kids had to enter their code caused a lot of kids not to eat. And there are a lot of kids who, they may not qualify for free or reduced lunch, but they are not eating as well. And I know this for a fact, that there are many kids that won't be eating if we stop that. I know at the elementary schools as well that are not under the free and reduced, the whole school free and reduced lunch, it's a similar situation. So I know it's a huge cost, but I think that there may be ways to look at it and either reduce the cost per meal or, like I said, at the high schools at least, either cut the breakfast and leave the nutrition or something like that, so that there's at least something available to kids at school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Michael Baker. I'm CEO for United Boys and Girls Club Santa Barbara County. And first of all, I want to thank the district for the past almost 5 years of serving our club kids. We've had a mobile cafe in front of our West Side Club and one in front of our Goleta Club. And last year alone, 130,000 meals were served for families in need. Didn't cost our kids anything. And that's why I'm here tonight, because first and foremost, I should have started up by telling you I'm one of those kids. I was one of those kids back in the 80s that had the card that got me to free breakfast and lunch. So I can tell you how important it is. When you get to the end of the month, it becomes just tremendously important because the families are out of money, a lot of them. We're entering a time right now where we're going into the holiday season. The kids are going to be off school. They're going to be coming to our facilities, that's why we're here. But if there's no school for those kids, for a lot of them, if this food program is cut, certainly during this time, there's no breakfast and there's no lunch for a lot of these kids. They're not eating. And I just really want to make sure we emphasize how important this program is. I don't think anybody here wants to cut anything. I get that. I don't think that's the intent here at all. But we have to figure out a solution. And we're willing to do what we can to help bring a solution to this as well, because every day that we're serving kids, like I said, we're serving hundreds of kids a day dinner at the United Boys and Girls Clubs. That wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for this awesome partnership. It just wouldn't be. But the reality is, if we cut this off, I mean, I don't want to be flippant about it, but I hope this isn't just a spreadsheet decision. These are people we're talking about, real people that deal with this every single day. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure, and I'm going to come back here. I don't care if it takes me 6 months to come back here every single meeting to keep beating this drum, because it's really important. Food insecurity is a real issue in not only this community, a lot of communities in Santa Barbara County. And if you don't believe it, just stop into any one of our clubs and you'll see it. The West Side Club alone, 97% of the kids are on free reduced lunch. 97%, that's virtually every child that walks in that building. And we're going to stop serving them. Just is not something I can sit back and just not do anything about it. So Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Linda Robertson, and I work for the Santa Barbara Unified Food Service. For the last 25 years, I've had the pleasure of serving all of our kids, from elementary all the way through high school. Now I'm working in the Santa Maria North County Kitchen, and we serve seniors, we serve homebound, we serve the Head Start programs. We also are working out of a homeless shelter, and we're serving homeless people. And we're also have another program called The Bridge, which is also part of this Good Samaritan. And it's really, it boggles my mind because our number one goal is to feed the kids. And there's a lot of kids out there, and they go hungry every single day. Even with what we're giving them is not enough. We have kids that, we go to parks. We serve for Parks and Recs up there and all over our community. And these kids are coming and running to ask what's for snack or what are they getting for dinner. And when you think about somebody or an idea that we need to cut these programs, it's crazy. You know, there's always a way around everything. But our number one goal is to take care of the kids. And I don't know how we're going to do it, but we need to work together to make sure they're taken care of. And even in the North County, which may not be right here, it's still a part of the county. It's part of the Santa Barbara County. And it's just essential, not only for the kids, but the adults and the homeless families that are eating with us right now that were not before. And I would suggest that each of you take the opportunity to go to one of our schools or one of the programs that are opened up and see who we're serving and what we're doing for them and how much joy and pleasure it brings to those who work for the food service. I do this every day, and I don't know anything else I'd want to do. And I've been doing it for 25 years. So I just want, please take the time to come to a program, either in the North County, here in Santa Barbara, and see who we're serving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to our speakers. So now I'll turn it,
We
have more.
We have
Excuse
more.
me, I'm sorry.
We have Ken Rivas, Corey Burkhart, and Summer Thomas. That's the last three.
Good evening. My name is Ken Rivas. I'm also a school district employee, and I wear another hat, vice president for the California School Employees Association, Chapter 37, which serves our school district. I'm not sure how we got to this point, but it's definitely now recognized. Someone figured out we're losing money, and I don't think it's any fault of the people that we're serving, the students or the staff that make the food. But I think that 20 minutes on the agenda item to try to just rubber stamp this or hash this out without giving the real, without understanding the consequences and the hardships it's going to cause to the kids that are eating and the employees that we're going to lose, because it's apparent that there's going to have to be some layoffs if there's programs cut. And so, to no fault of any of theirs, we're now in this position. So I'm just asking to really think this out, have the board, I'm asking, and in regards to and respect to Meg Jated's recommendations, actually go over this and see where we can, tighten the belt, so to speak. Is there too much waste being now happening? Can we reduce that? I don't think that the managers in every kitchen is a good solution. We have food service coordinators and lead food service workers that can kind of oversee this. If there's been some kind of lack of oversight, maybe we need to include this in their job descriptions. So that there is accountability, there is more fiscal responsibility in regards to what we're purchasing, how much we're purchasing, or again, the waste. So there's a lot of things I think we can do that we need to consider before we take 20 minutes to just say, we're going to make these cuts. I think it deserves more attention to that, because the livelihoods of the people that are in the food service and those students, and I get that if we have vans, I'm looking at the recommendations, and those vans that aren't being used, I can see why continue to lease them if we don't use them. Why are why should maybe we do have to look at the programs that we're providing right now. And so I get that we can't continue to lose money, but let's take more time and let's really think this through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. I emailed you all the other day. I hope you all took the time to read it. If you did, I really appreciate it. My heart and soul is in cooking food for children, adults, boys and girls clubs. This is what we do. This is why we're all here. And if this goes by the wayside, there's going to be lots of kids who don't get to eat anything all day long. You talked about the pork pizzoli earlier, Ms. Capps. Next time you go into a school, that probably won't be there. I mean, these are big decisions that need to be made. And like the previous gentleman said, 20 minutes, not enough time. Something we really got to look long, hard into. There's got to be another way. But just getting rid of food for everybody, that's not it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Summer Thomas, and I am actually representing an independent charter school, Olive Grove. We were looking forward to partnering with Santa Barbara Unified under the supervision of Nancy Weiss and Corey Burkhardt and providing breakfast to our students throughout our district. And we are looking at tonight's decision as a huge upset and hardship if it moves forward, because we will now be not servicing breakfast to 500 plus students daily. And for any of you who may or may not know, we do have over 70% at-risk youth at our schools. So this is a huge decision, and I would just respectfully ask and request that you think about this and what you're doing this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our comments. Ms. Capps.
Thank you. Mr. Tay.
Thank you for all your comments. I want to start first by saying that, I've overseen food service, not directly, but indirectly over our director, Nancy Weiss. And she's done some incredible things for our district in the scratch cooking and the healthy foods for our children. However, her heart was bigger than her budget. And we ended up last year contributing about $606,000 to the food service department. But on top of that, we did not take an indirect cost. So it's probably about a $1.1 million loss to the general fund, which serves all our children. This year, we're anticipating about $790,000. Again, not in collecting an indirect for that process either. So we're over about 2.3 or 1.3 million in that regard. We have 12 kitchens. We have about 126 employees, and we serve kids and adults from Carpinteria to Santa Maria, run by one director with, I call them air quote managers because of lack of anything else, but they're classified people in the kitchens, and they cannot supervise, nor can they evaluate employees. So that leaves one director evaluating all these people. So that's basically, in a nutshell, the background of the food service department problems. So the provision 2 is the first issue. So we do not intend to stop feeding the children who qualify for free and reduced, whether they are, a provision 2 means that they qualify for breakfast and lunch. And with the 6 schools that do not qualify, those children will still eat free. The reduced and the free will be charged or will not have to participate in paying any money. However, the kids that can pay, as you can see in the slide, keep going, Brian, please, are those 3 schools, and this was just for October. So we cannot sustain spending almost $103,000 a month feeding children who do not qualify for the free breakfast. And this is only for breakfast. It's because we don't feed them for free for lunch. It's only breakfast. So this is a huge cost to the district, just for 1 month right there. Now, October's a big month. We won't be hitting 103 every time, but it is a fairly big cost to the district. So the solution for that would be to stop feeding or having provision to breakfast at those sites for Santa Barbara. The second proposal is the programs that we have in North County. There are 12 programs roughly outside of the district that I know that we have contracts with. There are some entities that we don't have contracts with, such as United Boys and Girls Club and some other supper places that we serve, which we do not have any intention. Michael and I talked about this. We do not have any intention to stop that, feeding the Boys and Girls Club over the holidays. And we discussed this, so we think we have a solution by charging the adults more for the food to offset the cost of what it's costing us for supper. So I feel like we have a solution for that. So the remaining programs, 3 of them are actually schools. That's Montecito, St. Raphael's, and Notre Dame, that are we're losing money on them also, and but we do get some reimbursement for that. So what we're suggesting is that we take the cost for all these programs, we take the cost of the meal. If you're a school district, you get minus the reimbursement from the federal and the state, and they pay the difference. The actual school site pays the difference. With the other programs, we're talking about the cost of a meal plus an indirect rate. So some go up a little higher than what they were charging. Some go up a lot higher because we weren't charging them anything. We would bring a mobile cafe out there and wouldn't charge anything for it. That's a costly vehicle to provide without any reimbursement. I'd also like to standardize things. One school site would pay for a mobile cafe, another wouldn't. That's just, that's another way that we're losing money. So that was the plan for to offer the programs, and they will get a letter tomorrow, by 5 o'clock tomorrow, stating what their new rates will be. Then we have our third issue, which is the mobile cafes, which I'm finding out that some of these mobile cafes sit around half a day. So we're going to revamp how we use our mobile cafes, and our goal is to reduce by 4. We have a lot of supper places, so we want to make sure that we either have, possibly deliver food to, like United Boys and Girls Club has a health permitted kitchen, so we can deliver. That will cut down on our labor costs for them. So we are, looking into things like that, but they're not part of this 12 programs. So the mobile cafes would be another way to save money. We're also, of course, since Nancy retired, we are looking for a new food service director. I can't wait till that person comes in. I've learned more about food service than I ever have wanted to know, but I'm really excited about it because I think there's a lot of good things that we can do in food service, but I feel that we need to get back to the core of Santa Barbara Unified. We even lose money on our own kids. We need to get the labor costs down. There's no doubt about that. We spoke to CDE about it. They verified our numbers, and they too say that, you know, you're in a high cost of living area, and you need to get your labor costs down. Our food cost is okay, it's our labor. So.
Thank
Questions?
you. Yeah, any questions or comments from the board? Ms. Sims-Moton.
Thank you, Mr. Tay, and thank you to the speakers earlier. At first glance, what I'm seeing, it's like it's timing in terms of what we're asking our vendors and potentially the feeding of our students. And so it's like you've thought this through. You've had a short time to be able to do this. I just don't know we've had this sufficient enough time to look at it in terms of the discussion. I don't know how much has been included with regards to our vendors, because I appreciate the issue that we have here. I just think we need a little bit more time to really, before we start to put out these issues or solutions with regards to that, just to be fair to that. And I appreciate what you've done here in a short period of time, but I think we need more time to do this with regards to that, because some of the comments that I've received from the public is they didn't feel like from our vendors, that they've had enough time to really think through this process before we're producing what's going to happen to them. And I hear you saying that we're going to send out a letter tomorrow, but I think that's ahead of what we need to discuss here today and to be able to give it time. And I think that more time will allow us to come together, to work together with the solution. You know, both from what our standpoint is with regards to that, as well as how we can work with our vendors, you know, together to solve this. I'm not ready to move forward until we have a little bit more time, and I need to hear from you. What more time do you need with regards to this? You know, just as you said, it's new. You're trying to learn a whole bunch of things. So that are things that, so someone coming in on, you know, that's not fully informed of all the ins and outs of it, having to make a decision. So I can appreciate where you are with that. So given that, I would like to see us take a little bit more time before we decide that what we're going to do. It doesn't mean that some of these solutions still may not happen. They may be revised or differently. But I'm not comfortable with moving forward until we have a longer discussion and what other solutions, and making sure that we include our vendors in that decision. I'm not saying long and drawn out, but a little bit more time than what we're doing today.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Yes, Ms. Ford.
Thanks. I appreciate having sort of a cursory sense of what all of this is about, but it feels like there is an opportunity to have a greater plan, a more robust plan to make this happen. This is a huge deficit, and this was like a couple pages of a plan. There probably is more, but it's all that we got to see. I really, I think it wasn't clear that, well, no, I won't say that. I would say I just want us to work more closely with the partners that we have, and even if it does mean more time, to your point, but I've always found that if we were to ask our partners, how much time do you need, and what's really reasonable, that most people you can come to some kind of an agreement, and then people feel like they've been part of the decision rather than had something done to them. And so I would like to see that. I also have to say that, I mean, this makes me feel really badly because I feel like we share part of the responsibility for whatever
Absolutely.
reason, and I don't want to point fingers, but we share part of the responsibility. Therefore, we've got to figure it out. And so I just want us to have greater oversight of this going forward, and a plan for that, and a plan to sort of retool the way we are working with the partners in true partnership.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Ms. Munoz.
Yes, I also would like to have more time to implement, study this, implement it, come up with solutions, as Ms. Ford and Ms. Sims-Moton have mentioned, and to give it more time. I am concerned about, hunger and the ability to eat for our students, and I am, looking at, like, for example, DP, San Marcos, Santa Barbara High School, in terms of the students having breakfast and then being able to focus on learning rather than sitting there being hungry to start their day. And I am, in my day job, I work at Sencow House. I certainly talk every day to seniors and homeless persons that are at the shelters, and I have a lot of, experience with that and how much they live on per month, which is very minimal. And so I would also like to look at giving more time to try to come up with a solution that will work in a good way for our community and for our employees also.
Dr. Reed.
So I'm just going to join the bandwagon and say I agree. I think it can't be a spreadsheet decision. I thought that was a good comment. And the comments, it's important to work and collaborate. And I do think we can do that. We can come together and take responsibility for our part. But I do think we can be creative, and I also understand the time frame, so we have to be really cognizant of that. So I think, though, that if we bring everybody to the table to have the conversation in a timely way, I think we can work something out. So I support my sisterhood of board members.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to concur, and I'm glad that we came to this consensus. We're here because we're having this conversation because we have a super high rate of poverty in this county. We have the second highest rate in this county in the entire state, and our state has the highest rate of poverty in the country. So we have a real problem on our hands, and I appreciate what you're trying to do, Ms. Jate, of making us solvent. But like Ms. Ford said, these are our partners, and we can come up with solutions. I heard a lot of reasonable perspectives. You understand what we're facing. You understand that we're at a deficit. So let's roll up our sleeves together and figure out solutions and come up with a plan that reflects their perspective and their input. Because we have to figure this out. We can't. There's no other option. We can't just shut off the spigot with these kids. I know you would never do that, but we need to have a more robust plan in front of the board that gives us faith that people aren't going to be left in the lurch and families aren't going to be left in the lurch, because we have such good people in this community. I've worked with these folks who try to feed our kids, especially in the summer, and our schools are the reliant place for food and for thriving and for being able to learn, and these little bodies to be able to be given the chance. So I think what we're saying is we want to take a pause on this vote and to hear more of a plan that reflects the input of our partners and gives more time for transitions. Is that an accurate statement? Okay, so that would mean no action taken, no vote taken, but rather a consensus from the board to come back and revisit this in January, or whenever it's ready to be revisited. That's the point. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mr. Shea. Okay. Yeah, let's take a break after that, and because we've been bouncing around a little bit, and we'll come back to the agenda. So we'll take a we'll take a 7-minute break. So we'll come back at 10 of 9. Okay. So back to the action agenda. We are at item H4. H3. Thank you. Approval of resolution number 2019-20-16 in support of the 2020 United States Census Local Outreach Assistance and Promotion. Mr. Matsuoka.
So I love the simplicity of this resolution. I found it in a neighboring school district. I thought it captured the most important commitments on our part, so appreciate the board's support about this. So would invite the board to approve this as we head into 2020.
I appreciate the resolution coming forward. Sorry to recognize, Mr. Matsuoka. So just the importance of the census is so critical, as we had the presentation, and making sure that everyone gets counted in the school districts are one of those places that is a safe haven. So I much appreciate this resolution going forward. So therefore, I would move this approval of this resolution 2019-2016, support of the 2020 census.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Or any other discussion or questions? Are we ready to move? I can second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving along to H4, the positive certification of the first interim financial report for fiscal year 2019-2020. Mr. Tay.
Thank you very much. So this is your first interim for 1920. There's a quite lengthy narrative, and sticking to Ms. Capps, President Capps' speeding meetings, we will go right to the slides. But at any time, if you have any questions about what you read in the narrative, please feel free to interrupt or stop me, and we will answer the questions. Lacey Preston, our Director of Fiscal, is also here. She takes charge of the budget annually. So this is our first budget, first interim budget. And the first slide we want to show you is that since we're going into basic aid, and I think we're in basic aid now forever and ever, amen, I would like to show you where we've come and where we're planning to go. So you can see with 13-14 here, this was the first year of LCFF. And you can tell we still had total funding, which is basically our property taxes. At this point, we were slightly into basic aid, but not much. And again, in 14-15, as we got the gap funding come through with LCFF, our entitlement went above our property taxes. But look how close every year we are to our entitlement and our property taxes. Until 17-18, we then popped up a great deal into basic aid or community funded, and that was because of the RDA money, which we got $6.9 million. That's the redevelopment agency. Then in 18-19, you see that there we are again. Last year, we were teetering in and out of basic aid. We started out as we knew we were going to stay in LCFF for 18-19. Now you can see in 19-20, we are in basic aid solidly, and this is two components. Our enrollment is dropping, and our property taxes are going up. So that is that's how our span gets bigger and bigger between entitlement and property taxes is the decrease of enrollment and the increase of property taxes. So as you can see, we're projecting for 2020 all the way out to 2021, 22, we will still be solidly into basic aid. Our LCFF calculator goes out to 24-25. We're still in basic aid by then. And as we see on the next slide, this is how our revenues versus our expenditures. And as you can see in 14-15, 15-16, 16-17, and even 17-18, our revenue was greater than our expenditures. Then you hit 18-19, and our expenditures took off and outperformed the revenue. Therefore, that means that we started deficit spending. And as you see, 19-20, we're still projected to deficit spend. 2021, and then 21-22, 3 years out. We've made adjustments to the budget to try to get us back into even, or maybe someday below our revenue.
Mr. Tay?
Mm-hmm.
So when you speak of deficit spending, just for the public and our own clarification, does in that deficit spending include projected expenditures, or it's not just, it's projected to expend in that, right? We haven't actually spent it.
Yes,
So-
we are projected to spend, if someone says, I have $1 million, say for my site budget, I'm gonna spend $1 million. Maybe at the end of the year, they only spend 800,000, so that just falls into fund balance and helps with that deficit.
So I think that's important to point out, because if we're only hearing deficit spending, and not really, expanding on the clarification of what that includes and how it may be impacted by whether someone actually spends those projections, it's confusing.
Okay,
and
but
it's concerning.
I want to point out, we are finished 18-19, and we did end up with 7.6 million deficit. Okay, so that is an actual, but 19 and out, 2019 out to 2022 is all projected.
Okay.
Which means we we don't know if we're gonna spend, we don't know if we're gonna deficit spend as much as we're projecting we are now.
So we're looking at the actuals for 18-19, which you're saying is an actual deficit. Are we then looking at what happened in 18-19 so that it takes into account going forward? Do we need to spend at that level? Or are we going to, just, are we learning from 18-19? I'd like to not see, that deficit spending. What are we doing to look at that in a little bit more in-depth way?
Well, we've been instructed for our adopted budget from the county that we have to provide a list of cuts, which we have done, and Cabinet has worked to do, reductions, staffing, reduction in, other types of things. Some of the reason why we deficit spend is we got money a long time ago, and we're finally spending it. So we call those one-time funds that we're getting rid of, or we're expensing now, but got the money back in 17, 16. So that also affects the deficit.
So I think that's important points to note, because though, unless this question line of questioning and conversations happen, there's a conclusion that we're deficit spending, but it's just about deficit spending as opposed to one-time monies that we're just now spending. So I think that's really important to point that out when we come up to this, whenever we're talking about deficit spending. It's not just deficit spending, there are other factors that need to pay in.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Next slide, you can see we're declining as the whole state of California is declining. So our enrollment is following exactly the way our ADA is following. It's trending exactly the same way. So by 24, 25, I think by 21, 22, 23, we dropped below 12,000. We may get there even sooner because my projection for this year was 13,221, and the actual enrollment, it hasn't been certified yet, but it is 165 less than I had projected, and it was all in elementary. So I'm going to have to lower my rate of live births 5 years ago to probably 8% instead of 9%. Okay. I'm going to turn this over to Lacey because she's the multi-year projections.
Okay, we're going to be looking at our multi-year projection. This first tab is on just the unrestricted side of the budget. We have increased property taxes, which is line 3, by 4% going out into the future. That's the major change that you'll see in revenue. For expenditures, we have estimated a step and column of 1.2% for the next 2 years. And we have also included the increases or the changes to STRS and PERS that we know of right now for the next 2 years. We are also including some staff reductions due to the declining enrollment that Ms. Jate just talked about.
Lacey,
Yes.
so those staff reductions, are those full vacancies, or are there any of the FTEs not full? Are they all?
The reductions in the secondary are mainly tightening up the sections that Mr. Becchio did some research on and found that we think we can tighten up some of those sections. Classes are pretty low, eliminating one class, that type of thing. The elementary is definitely due to enrollment, lack of enrollment.
So this brings us down to what you're going to see is our deficit that we have over the next 3 years. So currently we're projecting to deficit spend 9.3 million and then 4.8, and then we get it down to 385,000. So this is, deficit spending is eating away at our fund balance. So you can see in line 18, this is where we don't have the amount that we need, we're having to get out of Fund 17, which is our special reserve fund. So, Brian, can you go to the next tab? So this is both restricted and unrestricted. And if you go down to line 13, you see that the deficit doesn't change quite as much on the when you add in the restricted part of the budget, that most of our deficit spending is on the unrestricted side. Let's see. And then, Brian, can you go to the final tab? So this just kind of goes over the changes that we took into consideration when making the multi-year projection. We also included an increase to the substitute teacher daily rate for next year, since it's going into effect January 1st. We're including it for the whole year next year. We also included a decrease in expenditures due to the one-time funds that we are expecting to fully spend this year. So that helps us. And open it up to any questions.
Just a correction, it's not Ms. Preston's fault, but the sub-pay, Dr. Becky and I decided to wait on that report to you until January 14th. So we sent you the Friday letter background just so you had it, but we just thought that this was a lot for one board meeting. So we do hope that you will approve that, because, you know, keeping up with our neighboring districts is sort of mission critical. So we, you know, that projection, we hope that you will approve that, and that would be a new cost for half of the year and then next fiscal year.
One other comment I want to make down here is that maybe a month and a half, whenever the board meeting we had, that we reduced the contribution to the irrevocable trust. You can see that down there, because we had already made it for 1920, but now we took $500,000 out of each one of the out years.
Thank you so much. Any?
We got one more
Oh,
slide.
I thought she just asked for questions. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I know that's my fault. We do have one more.
Okay, no worries, no faults. It's all good. Thank you.
So this is also in your booklet, but you can see that the unrestricted is the orange, and you can see that we've been just eating away at that. And we have our special reserve is the blue. The restricted is not really part of any kind of ending fund. I mean, it can't be used to hold any kind of reserve amount. Those restricted funds should be spent every year on the kids that it's been raised for in that year. So that's why you shouldn't really see a huge ending fund balance in the restricted side, but it should be in the special reserve in the unrestricted side. Questions?
Questions or comments? That's done. We allow that too. Anybody? Dr. Reed? Okay.
Could you get the multi-year projection up? All right, so board, longstanding board, fairly, well, actually not new board members. Got a year of seasoning. All right, so I keep saying this, I keep looking for those inflection points. I think we definitely had an inflection point. And if you can go to, yeah, that's good enough. So last year, I mean, net income loss. Look at that line across the 5 years that you see. Black, 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 ooh. All right, so we need to unpack what's going on in that. You know, I'll just amplify Ms. Sims-Moten's question. So if we're spending out one-time money that was received in the past, eventually you're going to have a year when it finally goes red, it's going to be red. Now, if we stop spending stuff on, like, if it's one-time expenditures, things that do not involve personnel, then it should get better in the next year. Well, right now it's not looking better, but know that your team's got to unpack the negative 7.685. Like, how much of that is one-time money where we have stopped expenditures in this year? Now, I would say, given that the number got worse, we need to really unpack that, because if the spending continues, like, that's the first time I've seen that graph. It's kind of it's a good visual. It's not a happy visual, that when the expense line is a steeper slope than the income line, we got to get those lines back in. We got to. They have to be the same slope. All right, and so eventually we got to bend that expenses line down. Now, I will say that the enrollment, I'm going to make that a priority in January, because, we can kind of feel the impact of housing costs. That birth rate in Cottage has never bounced back from the '08 recession locally. And so I think it's fortunate we're basic aid, so that we can leverage that. Here's a rule of thumb: 30 kids equals 1 teacher, broadly across the district, whether it's elementary, junior high, senior high. So if we're down 165 kids, if we could adjust, we could reduce by 5 teachers. We're not going to do that mid-year, but that's where we have to anticipate some of these enrollment drops. I think there's potential savings next year. We just need to probably take a pretty aggressive look at enrollment. And if it's dropping, then we need to take advantage of that. So we have some work to do. We will get on it. We'll get to the bottom of these numbers so that we can give you good recommendations as we head into negotiations and as we start thinking about budget for next year.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Tate. Thank you so much.
We need to approve the
We
budget.
do need to approve it, so I need a motion to approve the positive certification of first interim financial report for fiscal year 2019-2020.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. With that, motion is approved, and we move on. Thanks so much. To item H6, Mr. Vizzolini, acceptance of the 2018-2019 annual developer fee report for the Santa Barbara Unified School District.
Good evening, again, board members. Government code requires that each year we publish at a public meeting our developer fee report. So attached was for your review was the 2018-2019 developer fee report. So we have to do that within 180 days of the last day of the fiscal year, which was June 30. So each year in December we do this, but we'd give this to you as an action item in case you have any questions on it.
Any questions from my fellow board members? I think we're good. With that, we need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Motion carries. So thank you so much, Mr. Vizzolini. Moving on to item H7, Santa Barbara Unified School District and West Ed Partnership Scope of Work. Ms. Carey.
Good evening again, board. I'm going to present this. You have the background narrative there, and then, of course, we have our Director of English Learners, or in this case, emerging multilingual students, and parent engagement, who can be on hand if there are questions that I can't help to answer for you. This is really stemming from our federal program monitoring process, which highlighted something that we had actually internally identified as an area for growth ourselves, and it has to do with the fact that our newcomer students in the secondary grade span have not been having the access to grade level curriculum, core curriculum for English language arts and designated English language development, as is required, and as is required with the passing of new legislation, as well, as you can see there in the narrative. The courses that emergent multilingual students are currently involved in are double-blocked Read 180 classes that provide reading intervention, but again, they fail to provide standards-aligned core curriculum for English language arts in the designated ELD. So what we are proposing, and what we are seeking your approval for is a partnership, a contract with West Ed, who has developed the, we say ERWIC, but expository reading and writing curriculum. And there are multiple modules, I think 18 different modules in grades 9 through 12, for example, that will give students this access to core curriculum that they are entitled to, even as newcomer EMLs. I think the best thing to do is really see what questions you might have, see if I can answer them, and pull up Ms. Larios Horton as needed.
Any questions or comments from the board? Ms. Ford?
I have no questions. I am so excited to see this, and I hope we just approve it immediately. The kids need it, the teachers need it. It's going to be great.
Wow, excitement about a West Ed proposal.
That's an affirmation. Okay, any other? Ms. Munoz?
De acuerdo.
Okay. Ms. Carey, I think we're good, so we need a motion. So moved. Was that Ms. Ford?
No. Was it?
She was so excited, so I was like, make the motion, girl. So moved.
I second.
All right.
Okay, all in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, that concludes our action agenda. We've already taken our break, and we've moved bouncing back around here to our report and discussion agenda, item I. First item is the first reading, sunshining of the Santa Barbara Unified School District proposal for successor contract negotiations with the Santa Barbara Teachers Association. Mr. Becchio.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Ms. Sims-Moten, thank you for your service as president, and congratulations, Ms. Capps, for your appointment to president. So tonight I have brought forward 4 proposals, 4 different items. They're on discussion agenda tonight. I will then bring them back in January for a public hearing, so the public can once again see them, and then we will have them directly after that on the same agenda, action agenda, for your approval. So the first one is sunshining the proposal for Santa Barbara Unified's proposal for negotiating with SBTA, and we are putting forward the Articles 4, wages and compensation, and Article 6, hours and conditions. We've notified the union and putting that forward to you for discussion agenda.
Any questions or comments? And it's Dr. Becchio. Sorry, I said Mr., so thank you so much. Okay, thanks for that. We can move on to item 2, which is also yours.
Yes, this one is our proposal, Santa Barbara Unified's proposal for negotiations with California School Employees Association. You'll notice here we are proposing to negotiate Articles 9 and 40, wages and health benefits, and Article 21, evaluations.
Sounds good to me. Any questions or comments?
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Next
one is item I3, which is the first reading, sunshining of the California School Employees Association proposal for successor contract negotiations with our school district.
All right, this is CSEA's proposal that they put before us. Their intention to negotiate Articles 9 and 40, health and welfare benefits and wages. Article 16, use of personal vehicles. And Article 25, safety.
Good. Excellent. Any comments or questions? Yeah, Ms. Sims-Moten.
Yeah, I just had a question on, is it Article 16 that they're going to be discussing or no?
Article 16, use of personal vehicles.
Can you just expand on that a little bit?
This will probably, well, we don't know what they're going to bring forward.
Oh, okay.
But it's likely to be classified employees travel, using their own vehicles, travel during work time.
Okay, so I'll wait when you come back to maybe ask my question after. Thanks.
Okay, well, moving right along here, the fourth item in this series is item 4, the first reading, sunshining of the Santa Barbara Teachers Association proposal for successor contract negotiations with our district.
Yes, so SBTA has let us know that they intend to negotiate, put forward for negotiation Article, 6, hours and conditions, and Article 10, class size.
Any questions or comments? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You'll
you,
see
Dr.
those
Becchio.
again in January, public hearing.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Okay, item 5, network refresh report. Mr. Rickman.
I'm going to do it from down here just so I can look back. I don't have to look back and forth constantly. The details of my plan is in the narratives, and I'm just going to give a short overview of the project for the board members. Congratulations, Ms. Capps, on being president. The public gathered here and the millions watching at home. Yeah. It wasn't too long ago that we had a network that wasn't really functional and a couple of APs that didn't work. And it might surprise you to know that we have now one of the largest, most sophisticated and capable networks in Santa Barbara County. We manage 440 switches and 1,050 access points. And at any one time, there are about 10,000 users on our network and 20,000 or more devices, which is pretty remarkable. I'm beginning to realize I should have really sped up the animations. Sorry. And we've able to, what's really amazing is that we have the wonderful team here, and we've been able to maintain an uptime of our network about 99.9%. It very, very rarely goes down, and if it does, it's generally in pockets, not the whole thing. So we have some refresh goals. Our refresh goals are going to be around security, dependability, performance, and density and sustainability. We want to make sure, I was going to go through each of these if there were more people, but you guys can read in my narrative. You know, the first thing we want to do is make sure that our network is secure, and that's one of the things we'll focus on most. One of one area we're most excited about is right now we have a gig connection to the internet. So if you think about a network backbone, that's what we're going to be improving, the speed of our network backbone. If you think of it as a highway, and the data that I worked really hard on these, I just want to know. The data that moves along the highway as cars, what we have now is pretty good. It gets by, but with the growth in devices on our campuses, the need for more bandwidth around videos and audio, we're going to move to a 10 gig backbone, and what that's equivalent to is adding lanes on a freeway, a highway. Follow me? Okay, and that allows us to have more cars that travel at faster rate. And so our goal is to really speed up our network. Another thing we're going to do is move to dark fiber, and there's a detailed explanation of dark fiber in my narrative, but what going to dark fiber will do is allow us to increase our speed, control the routes the data takes, and also the priority at which our data travels. Right now that's controlled by Cox, but if we were to move to dark fiber, that's something we could manage ourselves. We're going to employ a platform called Net Insight, and what's really cool about Net Insight is it uses artificial intelligence to constantly monitor the network. And so it's always making adjustments to radio signals. It's looking for problems and remediating them before they become major issues. It's actually quite remarkable. So your network becomes a self-healing network. It will heal itself, hopefully. That's what I'm told anyways. The other really cool thing it'll do, and Ms. Capps, I think you'll appreciate this, is that it intelligently controls power to both switches and APs. So if APs are not being used, it'll shut the power down on the APs and also on the switches. The last thing we're going to be implementing is a user experience insight, and what that does is there's sensors at each of the sites that tells you exactly what users are experiencing, because the network may appear to be humming along, but users are having a bad experience either getting out to our learning management system or trying to download videos, and this will let us know when that's happening. The last thing I have for you is the budget. There was $6 million set aside from bond funds to fund this. I don't anticipate spending more than $3 million, and I think we'll be able to do it for less. Yay! Okay.
That's reducing that deficit spending.
Yeah. And do you have questions?
Well, thanks for that. Thanks for the graphics.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Oh, yay. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I was hoping to really excite Ms. Ford because she was so.
I love it.
Okay, great.
So moved.
Yes. Virtual motion there without needed. Thank you, Mr.
I
Rickman.
saw I think it was a Twitter post that all the data centers in the world have the same carbon footprint as the entire airline industry. And so, you know, the electricity that we use, because we're now just a technology internet-based world, we don't often think about, you know, those factories where 1 billion servers are being held, but I had no idea that much electricity is being consumed. So appreciate the intelligent hardware. There's one above us, AP. We have 2 in this room. I've heard stories about Santa Barbara Unified in the past that it was kind of the dark ages, and it was. Yeah, so well done, Mr. Rickman, to move us into the 21st century and be ready. So great.
Okay, moving on to the next item. Item 6, the first reading of board policy on sexual health and HIV/AIDS prevention instruction. Ms. Carey and Dr. Ramirez.
Hello again. I'm going to take this one because it's mostly pertaining to grades 7 through 12, although there is a mention of 6th grade. What I want to say first and foremost, as I know there's been a lot of attention on our health curriculum and specifically the California Healthy Youth Act, is that this is really, tonight's item is not controversial in my mind, in that even though the 10 minutes have been allocated to it, this is really just a straight bringing current our local board policy now that we have the California Healthy Youth Act legislation, now that we have the health frameworks that have been in development. And so as you'll see sort of just the dates, this is many years in the making, and we're just at a place where we're ready to incorporate this language now that it has been provided to us by CSBA. And really, there have been no local modifications to this. This is just really coming straight from the California School Boards Association. So bringing both of these forward to you, just as a reminder to you and to the public that all of the same opt-out provisions exist that have always existed. So I know that's been a question in recent months, weeks and months. And I'm open to your questions, and barring any concerns, we would be planning to bring this back for approval next time on consent.
Any reactions? Certainly, I'm happy to be consistent with the California Healthy Young Act. So I didn't have any, but does anyone have any words or comments or questions?
I just appreciate the update in terms of that, so that we can seek clarity in you know, dispelling some of the misunderstandings of it or misstatements of it or however. So I appreciated the update.
Right, as you know, there's lots of work afoot now on the curriculum, but this is really just to keep us clear about policy and is one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, echoing that, I saw the wonderful article in the Independent, which I know our team spent time on to sort of demystify some of this. So just as much communication as possible, and even having this tonight is one step in that direction. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. I'll pass that to Dr. Roundy Harder, who deserves the credit. And
Yeah.
there are the curriculum evenings for the public to learn more as they see fit in 2020. So we'll keep pushing those out.
Are those set?
Those
I
are,
realize this is-
I think they're set. They went out in Parent Square. I'm looking at Cami. So Parent Square messaging went out. They'll be on our website if they're not already. And we will just, refresh that as we turn the calendar over.
Excellent.
Lots of opportunities for the public to learn more as they are interested.
Thank you. Okay, excellent. Moving right along to item 7, the first reading of board policy on charter schools authorization. Mr. Matsuoka.
I noticed that the version that's in your board agenda does not have the red line changes. So I'm going to propose that we just table this until January, because the changes are pretty significant. Charter law is moving, what's the right direction? Depends on where you stand on charters. Yeah, it's really gone anti-charter or making it really challenging. We have some challenges with some of our charters. We have really good relationships with our local charters. I have my opinions, but we need to bring our policies up to date because a lot has changed. So I'm going to bring this back and get the red line version so you can make sense of it, okay?
Thank you. Okay, so that concludes our discussion agenda items, I think so. And moving on to item K, which is coming events. Any coming events that either our cabinet or our board members want to highlight for the public or for each other?
You should have received an invite to the AOK event. It's the after school. It's going to be quite the show of dance and song. It's this Wednesday. And I'm looking, does that ring a bell? Okay. Now, there's a lot of other holiday events, like I'm trying to get to a concert at 7 o'clock, but it'd be great if you could just stop by and see maybe the opening part of it. Is that going to be at Santa Barbara Junior High, correct? Marjorie Luke. Okay, big stage, Marjorie Luke, Santa Barbara Junior High. So it's not a ticketed event, but it starts at 5:30. Okay?
Great. Okay. So there we go. This is talking about the future agenda items now that we're looking towards 2020. Any future agenda items we want to put forward?
No, but it might be good for us to review the one that's on our calendar to see what items are there that we need to carry forth. So,
Sure.
And that's on Mr. Matsuoka's special events agenda.
Yeah, we've got a report on attendance and discipline. Dr. Waganick's working on that. I think that's early February. For those, you've been through a year cycle, for some of you 3 years, just know that from January to June, the pace does pick up. We will try to spread it out. I remember last year, we had some really light meetings, and I said, oh, we're going to pay for this. We will try to even it out so that it's fairly balanced in terms of time.
I'm all for that. That's great. Okay, well, with that, we're going to move to the last item here, which is second to last, which is to inform our next meeting, which is not till 2020. Sounds far, but it's not. Tuesday, January 14th, right here at 6:30. So I will move to adjournment with a message to everyone here to have good holidays and take some time and not be in this room quite as much and not be at work quite as much and be with your families and loved ones. And with that, I move to do adjournment. So here we go. Thanks so much.
moved.
Hey.